Tires matter. They're the only part of your vehicle that touches the road. Tread confidently with new tires from Tire Rack. Whether you're looking for expert recommendations or know exactly what you want, Tire Rack makes it easy. Fast, free shipping, free road hazard protection, convenient installation options, and the best selection of Continental tires. Go to TireRack.com to see their Continental test results, tire ratings, and reviews, and be sure to check out all the special offers. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be.
Welcome into San Francisco 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we're going to recap day number 14 and the final open practice to fans of San Francisco 49ers training camp. And it was a quick-hitting day, a lot of offense flying around, a lot of big plays happening, and unfortunately with that, still some bad news for the San Francisco 49ers as the hits keep coming. Gonna get into the offensive output, who was the starter that left with an injury, and some progress reports on guys already on the sideline for the team. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave us that 5-star audio podcast review, and let's dive into day 14, the final training camp day for the San Francisco 49ers. And let's start things off with the attendance report. Just one guy returning to practice today, that being Jacob Cowing. He was eased back into the team drills and whatnot, but good to have him out there. Was running pretty well, moving pretty well, so good to have him back out there on the football field for the first time. Really nice to see a young player that you hope can grow and prove himself in year number 2, finally get a chance to prove himself. So he's back out there, honestly, like in the right time for him. I know the receiver room is really injured right now, but to have him back out there on the football field before joint practices on Thursday in Las Vegas with the Raiders, that's a big deal to get him out there. And hopefully he can shine and splash in the next couple of days against the Raiders defense out there in Las Vegas. Still a lot of guys, though, on the sideline and absent from today's practice. No Nick Bosa, he was resting. No Richie Grant, Jordan James, Fabian Moreau, Kevin Givens, Jordan Elliott, Trey Brown, Upton Stout, Yetur Gross-Matos, Jordan Watkins. A lot of guys not practicing today. But there was some good news. Robert Beal Jr., Sam Okawanu, Michael Williams, Isaac Guerendo, Renardo Green, and Jauan Jennings were all seen doing some sort of rehab on the sideline. Some of them were more intense than others, but still good signs for those 6 or 7 players. You want to see the team get healthier as the training camp dates and the preseason games continue. And again, like having Beal Jr., Okawanu, Michael, that's 3 defensive players that will have varying degrees of success and output and are certainly in different places on the depth chart, but to have them back out there hopefully soon will help. My assumption is Beal will probably be back by Thursday. That's my assumption. That could be wrong. Okawanu's out until at least next week. Michael Williams is going to miss this weekend's game against the Raiders, I believe. And then Guerendo, Green, and Jennings are all going to miss the next week or 2 as they get back from injuries of their own. But I want to go to the YouTube comments for 1 second to welcome the 49ers 2025. He says, "What's up, Sterling?" Strawberry Reacts says, "Glad I didn't miss the show." No. You were here, Strawberry, about 5 minutes in, so good to have you back in the show with us in the YouTube comments. And then Big Brick 84 says, "Hey, Sterling, ready for today's swift kick in the ass." I hope you're mentioning the Taylor Swift appearance on the New Heights podcast, but if anything, the only person with the term ass in their name is Alex or Alfred Collins and getting his ass down to fix that pad level. But let's continue here in the YouTube comments as well, because the 49ers 2025 asks, "Do you see Spencer Burford making the team?" Yes, I do. I know that his preseason game wasn't what we wanted it to be. There's been some clear-cut struggles with him, but they gave him guaranteed money. He's been taking first-team reps the entirety of training camp and practices whenever Trent isn't out there. My assumption is it'll be the exact same thing on Saturday against the Raiders too. It looks like Spencer Burford, without a doubt, is making the roster, as he should. This team, for as inconsistent as Burford is, does not have the depth to cut players like him. They don't have the depth on the interior. They don't have the depth at tackle. They don't have the depth at center. They cannot afford to cut guys that can be somewhat playable. And Burford, for all the bad things he's done or the inconsistencies he's had, is still an NFL caliber player that should and will find himself on the roster post cutdown day. Papa J says here, "What's up, Sterling?" What's up, Papa J? Hope you're having a great Tuesday afternoon. He also says like and subscribe. Yes, please like and subscribe to the show. If you do so, and I'll read you a comment in a few minutes, but we got one of the craziest, most out-of-pocket comments on a podcast I've ever seen before, and I will have to share it with you today because it made me laugh so hard. I put it on social media if you haven't seen it, but I think we can all share a laugh with what the comment had to say. Kawachipto says here in the YouTube comments, the tape was a lot kinder to Burford than watching it live. Those backup tight ends, oof. Yeah, Luke Farrell wasn't great. Braden Willis wasn't great. Jake Tunges was better, but as a receiver, he's not going to give you much as a blocker. But yeah, for all the money San Francisco kind of dished out for Luke Farrell in the offseason to be the blocking tight end, not been a great camp for him or a preseason debut. So I will say this, when you are reacting to a game after watching it on TV, sometimes you miss things. That's why you love the community being so wide, so vast, because you can go watch film breakdowns and tape breakdowns. Johnny Dell's is great at doing stuff like that, which is why I go to him usually to see what he says. And yeah, the instant reaction to Burford was like, oh, he was terrible, but in retrospect, the backup tight ends are a major disappointment so far for San Francisco. You'd like to see him add somebody else because Braden Willis, frankly, isn't it. Tunges, outside of a receiver, isn't it really? They need to find a blocking tight end, or you hope Luke Farrell can grow into that player that he was supposed to be and become the player he was signed to be for the roster. But I want to continue in my notes because I already see many of you out there mentioning Ben Bartch's injury. I'll get to that in 1 second because I do want to mention free safety or just safety Marques Sigle. Had a great preseason debut against Denver. He got first-team reps yesterday with the defense out there, and today that continued. He worked alongside Ji'Ayir Brown at safety. No Richie Grant, no Malik Mustafa, and then no Jason Pinnock. He did individual drills, but did not do team drills. Not exactly sure what's happening there, but should watch out for that as things continue in progress. I'm assuming that he has a small injury, give him today off, really, a flight tomorrow to Vegas, then have him back for joint practices on Thursday. But the reason why I bring up Sigle is, yes, back-to-back days, first-team reps, has a really nice 3 to 4 practice/game stretch ahead of him, or now behind him. But after practice, Robert Saleh said that Marques Sigle has shown he can handle the free and strong safety mentally. So to me, while San Francisco, I would assume, has their, at least what they would like to see transpire, with Mustafa being a starter, Pinnock being involved somewhere, they are very open-minded to the idea of Sigle starting day one. And my assumption is, with the way things have gone, not to overreact to one game or a handful of practices, but Sigle has already shown more upside this training camp period than Ji'Ayir Brown has shown, because Brown had his worst day of practice by far, and we'll get to that more in a second. But I see your comments down below about Ben Bartch, all the stuff about him. man, Ben Bartch today, unfortunately, not exactly sure what transpired, not exactly sure what led to the injury, but he left practice early and seemed to be holding his arm or his right elbow. That led to Connor Colby in a surprise move taking over with the first team at left guard. And then Nick Sigle worked at right guard with the second team and center with the third team. So I hate to say I told you so. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but are we surprised? Are we really surprised that Ben Bartch is hurt again? Now, we have no idea how severe the injury is. It could be a bruise. It could be something very small. So if that's the case, good. But I criticized San Francisco during the offseason, during free agency, during the draft of like, it doesn't have to be the best guard in football. You don't have to pay, $20 million a year or give a guard $60 million for a 4-year contract. You just have to find reliable players because your offensive line, for as good as the ceiling might be, Brendel can play a lot better than last year. Purdy was great last season, albeit not having a great training camp and preseason, but still, high upside there with him. McKivitz, to me, has looked better this offseason, this year, than previous training camps, and we'll see if that can translate into the actual games. And then Trent, right? Like, you really, like, the ceiling is much higher than last year is. However, the floor this year is so much lower than years prior. Trent's older, has the ankle injury. Ben Bartch is always hurt, never had a full healthy season. Even when he was a backup in Jacksonville, there's a reason why he was traded away or claimed off waivers from Jacksonville. Jake Brendel, who has been relatively healthy, was terrible last season. And Purdy, again, has been on some shaky ground this training camp and whatnot. But then Colt McKivitz has been rather consistent, but this still isn't the best tackle in football on the right side. So there's a much lower ceiling, there's a higher ceiling than last year, much lower floor than last year too, unfortunately. And San Francisco didn't do their due diligence, in my opinion, didn't do themselves really anything good by not addressing the offensive line more in the draft. They can say they wanted to take a tackle in the third round, which, okay, that's fine, but you didn't do that, right? You didn't take a guard early on day 2 or late day or early on day 3, and you sat back, and that doesn't mean that every guy fits your system, because they don't, but it really does affect you going forward. It affects your offensive line. It affects how your offense can maneuver and how much success they can have. It affects your quarterback, your running game. We saw last year, the offensive line was the biggest problem of the offense in a overwhelming point of oh my God, this is a problem. And San Francisco didn't address the starters at all, minus Ben Bartch. You bring back Trent, which is great, but it's almost negligence on their end of not finding somebody else. And I get it. You don't want to pay Aaron Banks $72 million. Nobody should. Thank you, Green Bay, for doing that. But now to see Ben Bartch for the second time in the training camp period get hurt. He missed the first couple of days because he got hurt off of the team facility. Now he's hurt again. Now, this could be minor, but they don't have the depth behind these guys. They don't have the fortitude in previous years of Burford and Purdy being backups to Feliciano and finding somebody to replace them. And so now you're asking guys like Connor Colby, who had a pretty good preseason debut. You have Drew Moss, who I think looked as one of the best guys on the field on Saturday against Denver, but you don't know. Those are young players that maybe can play up to your level, but Bartch being hurt, I don't trust Nick Sigle. He doesn't finish. The anchor, albeit, is better. He just doesn't have the motor you want out of a guard. And there's a reason why San Francisco, like the defense, is rewarding younger players. Connor Colby getting first-team reps in his first camp ever. That's a big deal. Matt Hennessy has kind of been the backup center almost the entirety of training camp outside of some days, but Sigle now moved from being the reserved left guard to now being the reserved right guard. And if Bartch is back by, say, next week or so, where does that put Nick Sigle? He hasn't been great so far in preseason. He's been okay in training camp, and there has been some signs of improvement, but the way Drew Moss and Connor Colby played on Saturday and have looked in training camp this week, Nick Sigle may be on I don't want to say maybe in the realm of getting cut, but certainly is not as comfortable as he once was coming into the season, if at all. But also, like, that makes me worried for the offensive line as a whole, because the one thing you can't have is a healthy Christian McCaffrey and a healthy Brock Purdy and a healthy George Kittle. And then you're seeing all the receivers go down with injuries and whatnot, and then the offensive line falls apart. It doesn't matter almost how healthy your guys are. If CMC's healthy and Purdy's healthy and Kittle's healthy and the offensive line sucks, one, you have to have guys open lanes for your running game. And two, you have to give the quarterback time to throw the football. If you can't do that, you're not gonna win a lot of games in the NFL. So for San Francisco, I think relying on, there's no problem having Ben Bartch, thought of as one of your starters, but to not have the backups in place now. Maybe Moss and Colby become that, which they are, showing some signs of that as early on as in their first training camp. But they're just really, like, he is not reliable at all, that being Ben Bartch. He's not someone that while you like the upside, I was never sold on him being the guy. Maybe with Andre Dillard back in the fray, him taking a lot of second-team left tackle reps the last couple days, maybe you move Burford inside, which may suit him better, being a slower, left tackle right now. Put him on the inside, give him some help and stuff next to Trent in case, someone goes down. Maybe that's an option, but at this point in time, I don't really want to take reps away from Colby or Moss if they're going to get those in the next couple of days if Bartch misses, a week and a half or 2 weeks' time. So San Francisco, they have so many unanswered questions on the offensive line that they kind of, in a good and bad way, of like, they don't have any solidified backups right now, maybe besides Matt Hennessy, maybe, which, okay, like, that's fine. But you don't have a backup left tackle. You don't have a backup left guard, right tackle. Like, no one is solidified in their spots just yet. So it really does feel like that they can maneuver guys all around the offensive line, shift guys left and right, and kind of have like a makeshift backup offensive line for themselves, which in itself isn't a bad thing. I can see them carrying 3 guards this year as backups, that being Sigle, who can also play center. You look at, Colby and Moss as kind of your backup right and left guards, if you will. And then you have your 2 backup tackles, but it depends on how many offensive lines they want to carry, because I think they can pass off Drake Nugent as a practice squad player again this year. Honestly, like, Sigle's never looked good. Maybe he's on the outs. I wouldn't be surprised there. But I am worried, and I have been for a while, about what San Francisco's offensive line would look like this year if someone else went down. Like, it just, there's so many questions, and it's still befuddling as to why they didn't find somebody else. Whether it was a rookie 3rd rounder or signing somebody in free agency outside of a near DJ Humphries acquisition, or, like signing Andre Dillard, who's like, even Dillard's always hurt too. So they have a lot of question marks that will be intriguing to see what transpires the next 2 weeks or so during preseason and training camp dates and closed practices. But right now on paper, my assumption is Burford makes the roster, Colby makes the roster, Drew Moss makes the roster, Austin Pleasance makes the roster. And then it's kind of a battle, does Dillard or Sigle make the roster with Hennessy kind of slotting in there. But again, you can move guys around a lot. Maybe Burford goes back to right tackle. There's so much going on. And maybe the Dillard and Burford competition becomes more evident as the next couple of days go by. But right now, with the way they gave Burford more money and this, that, and the other, it certainly feels like his spot on the roster is safe, at least for this season leading into cut day. But I want to continue because you have so many comments here in the YouTube chat talking about the offensive line. Could they trade Burford? Probably not. I don't think San Francisco would want to do that. Even if they did value Dillard over him, probably no one's going to take Spencer Burford, but Dillard's also always injured. Niners Goat 16 asks, was Alfred Collins out there? Yes, he was. Big Brick says, I still want to see Prince. What's his last name? Like Wango Tango, whatever his last name is. I don't want to be offensive, but he's a very interesting last name. But Prince, he wants to see him getting left tackle reps against Max Crosby on Saturday. He did shut down Crosby a few years ago while on the Bengals. San Francisco has a lot of questions to answer on the offensive line from the first team all the way down to the third team. So a lot of things to answer for them as things go on. Thank you, Prince. That was his name, Isaiah Prince. Thank you. Sorry about that. There's another tackle, though, named Prince Wango Tango or something like that floating around the free agent market, so forgive me. But thank you for the clarification. I really appreciate it. But let's keep moving along in my notes because we have a rather large Jauan Jennings update that for the better half of the day kind of flew under the radar. I saw it on NBC Sports. And then I read the story from Tim Kawakami of the San Francisco Standard, who had the actual report about Jennings. And I will read you the quote in 1 second because Joseph Ehrenberg says, Sterling, are you trying to run some dungeons on WoW or hop on CS? Neither, because I'll tell you this, I have to go pick up my wife in like 35 minutes, and then Alien Earth debuts tonight on Hulu, and I'm locked in for the 2-episode premiere. Big Xenomorph fan, big Alien fan, so I'm locked in tonight for the rest of the day, but ping me tomorrow and let's see where things are at when San Francisco is traveling. But let's get back to the Jauan Jennings news of the day because Tim Kawakami does not mention JJ's injury whatsoever in his report, which there's been so much speculation as to, is that being taken into account? Is it real? Is it fake? Jauan Jennings is on the sidelines doing some rehab work. It looks real. It feels real. It feels like a concern for the organization and himself. There's no timeline in which he's supposed to be back for them. So Kawakami does not address the injury whatsoever. But what Tim says here is, and I quote, I checked around and my understanding is that the 49ers feel that the timing is all wrong. They don't want to give Jennings a big new deal so soon after he signed one last year and a year after giving Brandon Ayuk a huge contract that the Niners money people almost instantly regretted in months after signing Brock Purdy to a $265 million deal. So right there in itself, the first paragraph, the timing is all wrong. Now, there's two perspectives there. From San Francisco's point of view and their POV, yeah, the timing's wrong, right? They're cutting guys in free agency. They're bringing in 11 new draft picks. They signed Kittle and Warner and Purdy to brand new contracts. They are right now not reaping the reward from Ayuk's deal. And so for their perspective, they're saying, look, this doesn't work for us. Timing's all wrong. We're cutting salary. We're not adding salary. Like, no, it's not good for us. From Jauan Jennings' POV, he's like, I'm going to be a free agent in 9 months, in 10 months. I would like to stay here. I would like a new deal here. I don't want to wait to hit the market. I know my value is probably maximized in this system, with this roster, with this fit, and I know there's been tensions with the Ayuk deal. Maybe he's gone after this season. Maybe he's not. Who knows? But this is a battle of perspectives, which most negotiations are. Most guys want to get paid a lot of money. Most teams don't want to pay guys a lot of money. But the timing aspect is interesting because you paid him a year ago. You gave him a 2-year deal, signed through this year, signed last year, but you knew this was coming. Now, did you sign Demarcus Robinson to a 2-year deal knowing that? Are you playing coy with Jauan Jennings? And for Jauan, he's like, I just want to get paid my worth because I don't want to be a 28-year-old free agent that's a former 7th-round draft pick, has never had 1,000 yards, and right now is currently injured. I want to get paid before things maybe get worse for me. So it's a balancing act, obviously, here, but the next paragraph Kawakami has is more telling to me. And I quote again, I've heard that the two sides are not close on a new agreement, which shouldn't be a surprise after the 49ers rounds of cost-cutting last spring set up their new deals with Brock Purdy, Fred Warner, and George Kittle. Beyond that, the Niners have clearly indicated that there isn't much more money to pay out, and certainly not at wide receiver with Ayuk's $30 million a year deal already on the books. That right there, well, I've already been pretty adamant of I don't want to pay Jauan Jennings with the calf injury. He's hurt, table negotiations, it's not happening while you're on the sideline. If you're healthy, that's fine. San Francisco does hold some leverage over Jauan Jennings, right? They can say, we don't want to do it. They can say, we kind of dare you to sit out, but Jennings does hold some leverage over them, too, of like, look, if Ayuk's on the shelf, if Robinson's out for a suspension, if Watkins isn't healthy, you're going to want me out there. You don't want me missing games knowing that you don't have other receivers that are proven like me on the field. That said, it does sound like San Francisco, albeit isn't closing the door on re-signing Jauan Jennings. They are by no means, I guess you can say, aggressive or eager to get a deal done right now with Jauan. A deal's not close. He's currently injured. And I would not be shocked to learn that they have not tabled negotiations entirely or shelved negotiations entirely. Calf injuries are scary. There's no reason to make a deal while guys are hurt. And I can see San Francisco initially open to the idea. I could see San Francisco, like, they were glowing about Jauan when training camp first started 2 weeks ago. Oh, Jauan's here. He'll be out there the next day. Jauan's operating in good faith. Oh, yeah. Fast forward 2 weeks. You're injured. You ain't practicing 10 days. Never mind. That's what this feels like. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and we'll hopefully learn things later, but it just feels like San Francisco, although I don't like the fact of Jauan Jennings not being on the football field or not being re-signed to a new deal, because I love Jauan Jennings, who doesn't, but they are playing things smart. We've learned a lot throughout this offseason of them being more stingy, them being really cognizant of who they're paying, not recklessly spending money, and it does feel like Jauan may be, outside of the guys that were cut during the offseason in free agency, may be the first casualty of that. Which I hate saying that because Jauan's been a heck of a 49er before the injury, deserved to get paid. He's done everything right throughout his entire time in San Francisco, been a season saver at times for them, almost was the MVP of the Super Bowl. But Jauan Jennings is right now walking down the path of being the first casualty of San Francisco's new mentality of spending, of we're not doing it unless we absolutely have to. And Jauan Jennings, for the good things he does, is not really a necessity to San Francisco winning football games. Now, he does so many things for you that can help you win. But I saw a comment today on Twitter where someone said, make no joke, if Jauan isn't playing, we might lose to the Saints. Now, I think they're over-exaggerating by a lot. I don't think San Francisco is fully healthy, or at least, having Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy and somewhat of a competent offensive line. that team's not going to lose to the Saints, but I think what they're getting at is the fact that some fans believe Jauan may be more important to how this team or how much this team can win. And Jauan can certainly be a separator, very clutch player. He was clutch that entire playoff run 2 years ago. It's not to diminish what Jauan has done in San Francisco. That's not the case. But I think we're overestimating how important Jauan might be to winning actual football games in a longevity point of view, or in say if you sign Jauan to a 3-year, $36 million deal, $12 million per year, how much of an impact is Jauan actually going to have on you winning 10, 12 games a year? Like, Jauan Jennings has a very replaceable skill set. Now, you love the mentality. You love that player on your team. You love Jauan Jennings himself, and he's somewhat growing into a better receiver, but even in Jauan's best games last year, and now this team was terrible, but they lost those games. Not because of Jauan, but because, well, you can reallocate some funds if you don't pay Jauan Jennings $12 million a year. Now, there's obviously some cap conversations that go and that come into place there, but I do wonder. Jauan Jennings feels like the guy that Kyle would slam the table to draft, to re-sign, but it does feel like that maybe because he did that with Brandon Ayuk and kind of got reamed for it, probably by the front office, but I wonder if Kyle has done a lot less table slamming after that, of hey, you went up here, you advocated for your guy, got hurt, it was a pain in the ass, and now we're overpaying him, right? I do wonder if this may be, in a lot of ways, not just a money portion, but this may be a domino effect of the Ayuk deal from one or two different angles of, money, but also Kyle doesn't get a chance to pound the table for guys as hard as he did by running up the stairs saying, "John, don't trade Ayuk." I don't think he has the, I don't want to say the leg to stand on for doing the same thing for Jauan, but I just think San Francisco is going to play things tough. And look, I love Jauan Jennings. If he was healthy, I think I'd have a different point of view. I just think that they're in a place where they have to be really fickle with their money. And I think if Jauan was healthy, I think they would be more eager to get a deal done, but it does feel as if San Francisco maybe is more open to the idea of seeing what the younger guys on the roster have. And if those guys don't play well, you can always revisit a mid-season negotiation, right? They got Demo's deal done mid-season a couple years ago. So they can always reopen conversations, but it does certainly feel like the negotiations have been shelved. But tell me down below in the comments, are you staunchly in the pay Jauan Jennings camp, where you're like, we can pause things and see how the season progresses before dishing out double-digit figures again to a wide receiver? And do you think a lot of this comes down to how the Brandon Ayuk saga was handled last year from Kyle's point of view and how much the organization paid out? Strawberry React says here in the YouTube comments, here's hoping the Demarcus Robinson suspension doesn't happen right away. Since he's appealing, maybe they can delay it a bit. I would rather them get that out of the way, but I see your point. Maybe if Jauan gets healthy, you don't mind that being delayed, or maybe Robinson isn't suspended to begin the year, but when Ayuk and Jennings come back, he then misses time then. I think it's wishful thinking. I think that the NFL, while it may make things linger, they don't really have too much on their plate when it comes to legal issues right now. So at least that's my knowledge of certain things. But the appeal process really should not take that long. It's a yes or a no. It really shouldn't. You've already done the research and the investigation to see how long a guy should get suspended. So Robinson already knows he's going to get suspended. I think for Robinson, the best case scenario is going from 3 games to 2 games. That to me feels like what he's shooting for. Play 15 games barring health and not miss too much time. And hopefully if you're going to miss time, you only miss the game against Seattle to begin the year and the game against the Saints, and you're back for the games against the Jaguars, the Cardinals, and the Rams. 3 of the more important games to begin the season. So I really feel like that things will come quickly. And they also say here in the YouTube chat that the Rashee Rice suspension hasn't even happened yet. That was over a year ago. I would agree, but they also just got Jordan Addison for a DUI. So it does feel like things are starting to kind of permeate and get done faster. And the NFL has kind of gone through things quicker, or at least just kind of finding a resolution to their issues. So it does feel like an answer should be coming soon, is what I'm trying to say here. Big Break 84 says the Niners and Jauan Jennings need to find a middle ground and get him on the field. We need JJ at 100% mentally and physically to get the most out of him. I would agree, but what if I told you Jauan Jennings right now and maybe leading into the actual regular season may not be 100% at all. That calf injury is much more serious than they are letting things on to be. At least that's my assumption, because he hasn't practiced, he isn't out there. I do not think it is a money ploy from him. I think if he was healthy, he'd be out there. I think if Jauan was 100%, he'd be out there playing and practicing in good faith, because I'm sure at that point they'd want to pay him. So I get what you're saying, but I just feel like that may be also wishful thinking for the San Francisco 49ers and Jauan Jennings. I'm moving along, though, because Jake Moody, the kicker, the man that, won a job by default, had maybe his best kicking performance of training camp. He had an excellent preseason debut, one PAT, a handful of great kickoffs from him, but 7 for 7 on the day with a kick that was made beyond or around 55 yards. So Jake, who's always been a great practice kicker, you want to see what he can do against Las Vegas, which, funny enough, Jake has been in Las Vegas a couple times. His first preseason game ever was in Las Vegas, and I'm pretty sure he missed that kick. So if Jake can overcome the Allegiant Stadium hurdle, we might be in for a new Jake Moody in 2025, but a good day from him, 7 for 7, and a kick made over 55 yards. But I want to quickly pause for 1 second to first remind you to use our promo code 49ersaccess right here on screen and down below in the description. 49ersaccess, 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Whether it's Niner games, MLB games, concert tickets, doesn't matter. Use that promo code and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. A free gift from me to you. But I do want to get to, I think, at least in my opinion, one of the most out-of-pocket comments I have ever received on a podcast, which I've been covering the team for about 5 to 6 years now, and we've seen some growth over that time. But it's not often you get comments on an audio podcast on the platform itself, but to get one of these, one, it caught me off guard, but two, the contents of the comment was crazy. So this comes from, and courtesy of Melkins, on the episode following the preseason opener against the Denver Broncos. And Melkins commented on this with one, tried to kind of smooge me a little bit, give me some compliments, then got into the hard facts he wanted to let me know of the podcast. But here we go. Melkins says, good insights, but dude, if you're not going to chill out with how the letter T's sound, I literally won't listen. And here's where it gets crazy. He says, you sound like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. He says, "You sound like you have wavy hair and carry a mirror with you." He says, "You sound like you correct random people's grammar in public. You, you sound like you wipe your ass with your pinky out." God. "You sound like your favorite insult is to call someone a peasant." And to end, he says, "You sound like you agree with people by saying, yes, indeed." Man. But then he caps things off and says, "Genuinely, though, good insight." So a lot to take away from that, but I appreciate you, Melkins. I will work on the tease just for you. But one of the crazier comments ever. And look, tell me down below, man, do my teas sound too hard and tough? I got so self-conscious about it. I asked my wife, I said, honey, I said, "Do my teas sound harsh when I do a podcast?" And she goes, "Well, say something for me." And I gave her a sentence or two, and she was like, "Yeah, it's a little harsh." Maybe dial back your teas and how strong they sound on the mic. But so I've been all morning like, I've really got to figure out how I say my teas softer. Like, where can I have the inflection point? Where can I come in harder and stronger? So Melkins, I'm taking your constructive criticism to heart and trying to improve my T usage and T sounds in the podcast. But thank you so much for that, Melkins. It gave me a good smile, and I appreciate you leaving a comment. Papa J says here, "What? I've never heard that from you, Sterling." Also, comment down below, do I sound like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast? If that's the case, I mean, I'm not going to say, no. Dude was jacked as hell and had a great head of hair. So once again, Melkins, I appreciate you in the comments you left. I'm not going to lie. I do love the out-of-pocket stuff. My brand of humor is definitely leaning more towards the early 2000s, late 90s stuff. So I don't mind some rudeness in my comedy by any means. So I'll be sure the next time I wipe my ass, though, I'll make sure my pinkies are out just for you, Melkins. And every time I do it, I'll think of you while I'm taking a crap. But thank you for your comment, and let's get back into the takeaways from day 14 of San Francisco 49ers training camp. And let's kick things off with the quarterback himself, the $53 million man, Brock Purdy. He was 14 for 17 on the day, and he had things cooking with George Kittle throughout. He finished the day with 4 total touchdowns, one of those being a rushing touchdown. So we did get a more mobile Brock Purdy today to cap things off out there on day 14 in training camp. So a good day for Brock. Reached the end zone 4 separate times. A lot of big touchdowns, small touchdowns, some maybe unintentional touchdowns from Brock Purdy today. The first one being Chris McCaffrey open in the flat in the red zone, had a blocker in front of him, easy peasy, catch, walk into the end zone, first touchdown of the day, done and over with. But the other touchdowns were, I think, the more impressive ones. One, because it really wasn't meant to happen the way it was constructed. The big one was a 40-yard touchdown pass to George Kittle over Ji'Ayir Brown, right over the middle and bang, gone. Actually, it was deep, There was a lot of George Kittle action, but this one was deep down the field to Kittle, 40 yards downfield, through the air, folks. Kittle caught it and ran about 30 more yards for a massive touchdown pass. But as Kittle reached the end zone, you hear him yell, "Another effing touchdown!" And Kittle had himself a day with 2 touchdowns through the air. So a really good day for the People's tight end and a really good day for Brock Purdy. And he capped things off through the air, at least, with a touchdown to Dominic Purdy. Yes, you heard that right. A touchdown to right guard Dominic Purdy. And the way that it was set up was Brock was throwing to Kyle Juszczyk for an assumed touchdown, but or at least throwing it to Juszczyk to make a completion. And Juszczyk, the ball was high to him. He kind of reached for the football, got one hand on it, and that flung the ball in the air near the red zone, in which Purdy turns around, jumps up, makes the catch, and then, like anybody wants to do if they're an offensive lineman, he sprints 15 yards toward the end zone, running down the field. I guess in an odd, roundabout way, Dominic Purdy gets a touchdown before Trent Williams or Colton McKivitz. I think that's more touchdowns than Isaiah Hodgins has had, and more than Luke Farrell has had the entire preseason or the entire training camp. So Dominic Purdy, dare I say, Kyle, get in the playbook and start writing some more plays up for Dominic Purdy. Get in your bag a little more. I want to see Purdy be the second tight end on plays. Put Connor Colby at right guard or Nick Sigle, whoever it may be. Make Dominic Purdy the second tight end at the goal line, and let's get a touchdown for the second-year player out of Kansas this year. Talk about you wouldn't expect that to happen. So Brock Purdy having a great training camp. There's been some interceptions, but overall a very strong end to a rather good preseason and training camp for Brock Purdy. Not sure when he'll actually play come game time in the preseason. Again, my assumption is week 3 will probably be the dress rehearsal for the guys, knowing they have joint practices this Thursday. I would assume starters won't play, knowing that they have so many guys injured. But a good day for Brock Purdy, getting off day tomorrow on a flight to Vegas, and then back at it on Thursday against the Raiders in joint practices, and maybe on Saturday against Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium in preseason week 2. The next person I want to highlight is Christian McCaffrey. And McCaffrey, he is starting to dial things up again. McCaffrey's starting to pick things up. Back-to-back good practices, more involved in the offense recently the last couple of days. Yesterday, much more of a pass-catching day for him. Today, another touchdown through the air, but also a handful of big running plays. No surprise here. You run behind Kyle Juszczyk on your left-hand side, and then you have Trent Williams in front of him running downfield. You're going to steamroll some dudes and free up some space, and he got free, and then boom, was off to the races. So you're starting to see Christian, who's had a rather quiet training camp, really pick things up the last 2 days. And I think you're seeing that slow progression of ramp up for him, of like a slow start here or there involved, but then becoming more involved as things go on, and then grow and grow and grow. So I think we're going to see McCaffrey, or at least hear of him, and get involved more. Obviously, they want to save him and keep him healthy for the regular season, but good to see Christian still has the home run ability still in him through the air and on the ground throughout training camp. Let's go back to the YouTube comments for 1 second. Strawberry says here, add it to the playbook, Kyle, in reference to Dominic Purdy's touchdown. Yes, please do something. I want to see whether it's Trent. I think there was a play where they tried to get a touchdown pass to Trent a couple years ago. It didn't work, but let's run out there again. Let's try again. If it does not succeed the first time, try again, Kyle. Let's get creative in 2025. Imagine Trent or Dominic Purdy catching a touchdown pass this season. Brad Graham might lose it. That would be awesome, though. Whenever big guys score touchdowns, it is a awesome sight to see on the football field. Lori Matthews says, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Lori. Hope you're surviving in Phoenix. It's about 103 degrees here. I'm sure it's about 135 where you're at. So drink some water and get your electrolytes in, because we need you this year, Lori. Locked in preseason week 2 against the Raiders. Hopefully you can get the game this time. But we need to have you on the radio, which wink, wink, may be happening again on 95.7 The Game. But I can't say too much about that this season just yet. Give it a week or so, and I'll let you know exactly what's transpiring for myself on 95.7 The Game. But need you out there. Happy you're here with us today, this Tuesday afternoon. John Neville says, what's up, Sterling? Tell me something, good Niner fan. Who we signed today? Funny enough, San Francisco signed nobody today. which is a great thing. For the first day in what seems like a week and a half, no new additions to the roster, but unfortunately, John, Ben Bartch did get injured, but good day from Brock Purdy, good day from Christian McCaffrey, and a good day from the next person in my notes, Robbie Chosen Anderson. Back-to-back days, Chosen Anderson has picked things up in a big way. Had an amazing diving catch on Monday's practice and caught 2 more passes today over the middle, and then caught another touchdown pass as well. So back-to-back days, back-to-back touchdowns for Chosen Anderson. The first one, a normal 15-yard catch over the middle, but the second one I want to highlight because I see comments here in the YouTube chat, what about Mac Jones? I'm surprised people actually care about Mac Jones as much as they do, but people do care about Mac Jones, and I will say this, to give you an idea as to how comfortable Mac has looked in the offense. You didn't see Trey Lance do this. You didn't see Sam Darnold do this. You didn't see Joshua Dobbs or Brandon Allen do this. As a backup quarterback, you usually don't see them changing plays in practice at the line of scrimmage. But Mac today gets to the line of scrimmage, looks around, assesses the defense, changes the play, goes to play action, and it works just perfectly. Gets Chosen Anderson open over the middle, layered throw, boom, right into his hands, and he's running. So a glimpse into where Mac Jones is in the offense, and probably he's going to start this Saturday against the Raiders, I'm assuming, with how bad the quarterback play was, mainly from Mordecai and Bradley against the Broncos. They probably want to get Mac about maybe half of a game to play, unless they sign somebody else, which who knows. But good insight with Mac and his progression in the offense, learning it and how to play in it. And Kyle not being too, I guess you can say, upset of a backup quarterback changing plays in practice. So a good thing there. Not like that big of a deal, but worth noting. And then Robbie Chosen Anderson. Receivers are dropping like flies. Could he be a guy that makes the roster? Back-to-back good days. And if he plays well in preseason week 2, maybe something changes for the veteran receiver, which he kind of made a point of like he was going to stay in San Francisco last year, but chose to leave for Miami. So there's a connection there somewhere with the San Francisco 49ers and himself. So maybe he's meant to be here in 2025. Back to the YouTube comments. Joseph Ehrenberg asks here, Sterling, higher or lower on Brock Purdy's interception at 19.5? If Brock throws 19 interceptions or 20 interceptions, it's going to be a long year. I'll say Brock throws anywhere from a 12 to 13 picks this season. I think that's where Brock will be. Not great, but not bad. Brock always kind of has 1 or 2 clunkers during the year where there's going to be 2 to 3 picks and we're all like, oh my God, this one's over. But hopefully the defense can do its job and keep us in games and allow us to maybe overcome the 1 or 2 clunkers Brock has a season. So my over-under is probably set at somewhere towards 11 this season with Brock, and I'd probably take the over at 12 or 13. Let's keep going in the YouTube comments for a second. Let's keep it going. What else is in here? Joseph Ehrenberg says, any more news on Matthew Stafford? Yes, Matthew Stafford was supposed to come back to practice yesterday. Didn't happen. Then he was supposed to come back to practice today. Didn't happen. So Matthew Stafford is not healthy. I don't know why Rams fans are not panicking more. Like, for a series says I'm taking Jauan Jennings injury, Matthew Stafford's 37 with a bad back. Those guys don't last long. Like, that's what ends a career. So negative or bad news for Matthew Stafford. Hopefully he can get healthy. I do like watching Matthew Stafford play. He's a darn good quarterback. But for San Francisco, Week 5 against Jimmy Garoppolo sounds pretty good right now. I would not be too mad about that. It would be an all-time game of can Kyle overcome Jimmy and can Jimmy overcome Kyle. So it'd be pretty fun to watch at least. And hopefully San Francisco can pull it off because Kyle is known to, against his former teams, known to kind of fumble the bag at times. Lost to Atlanta in 2021 and 2019. And so you're hoping that Kyle could, quite frankly, kick the crap out of a Jimmy G-led Rams team. But, let's keep it going down the comments in the YouTube chat. Actually, let's go back. Oh, John Neville says 12 was my guess. See, John, me and you, man, same place. Okay. Let's get back to the takeaways from the day, and let's talk about George Kittle, because George Kittle's connection with Brock Purdy was the other big highlight of practice, and he and Purdy and Kittle, again, I've gushed over and over again about it. I think, again, one of the best quarterback-tight end combos in football, maybe not named Mahomes and Kelsey, but those guys are in lockstep all the time. Today, 2 touchdowns together. And it's not just like, in the flat or in the red zone. It's like, no, it's deep downfield, 40 yards here, 30 yards there. It's like they share a mind. Honestly, like those guys have excellent chemistry. Brock trusts him with his life, it seems like, and vice versa, which is what, and really when you, like, we heard stories about, Joe Montana and Jerry Rice can go play football and catch in the dark. Well, I wouldn't put that same thing on Purdy and Kittle. Like, their connection is so intertwined. Again, they work well together. And for people that may say Kittle's aging over the hump, I think he's worth every penny of that new contract he got, and I think he'll prove it again this year. Excellent play. Sidelines, seams, over the middle. Kittle was all over practice today, and really has been all over practice nearly every training camp day thus far. If Kittle can stay healthy, which there's been some bumps in the road throughout his career, but has overwhelmingly been healthy, I think he's in for another all-pro season. He looks healthy, he's moving fast, he's getting open and beating guys in coverage all the time. So a great day from Kittle. And then let's go to the defense to end today's show. Bryce Huff, without Nick Bosa, without Micah Williams, Bryce Huff continues to produce. I thought Bryce Huff had a okay preseason debut. There was some good things you like from him against Denver, but he had 2 more would-be sacks today going against the starting offensive line. He's getting first-team reps now, which he wasn't to begin training camp, so it's good to see there. And then Kalia Davis, who had a tremendous preseason debut on Saturday against Denver. He, again, had a would-be sack in today's practice, so you are seeing some guys step up in the absence of maybe the assumed stars on the roster. So some good stuff there from a defensive line that has a lot of pressure on it to perform this season. And we saw how good it can be, or at least how good the defense could be against Denver at times with Salah back in the fold. And they shut down Denver's starting offense for about a quarter and a half, and then the offense couldn't put any points on the board after the safety. So you want to see a more complete performance from the team on Saturday against the Raiders, and hopefully you give the defense a better chance to not get tired and be out there consistently. So a good day from the defense, at least when it came to Huff and Kalia Davis. But I want to end, unfortunately, on a down note, because Ji'Ayir Brown has had quite the... Man, it's like, I really want Ji'Ayir Brown to be successful, because he came out, was not supposed to be a starter in his rookie season, but then, caught or got an interception to clinch his first game against the Buccaneers. Fast forward, is playing good in the playoffs and the Super Bowl, gets an interception against Mahomes, and we're all thinking this is it. We're going to win one this time, and things didn't go well. But in a microcosm of that game, we're all thinking Ji'Ayir Brown is going to be amazing. Him and Ufunga are going to be awesome. Then they get Mustafa in there. It's like, great, we have two good safeties again. We're not going to miss a beat. And then Ji'Ayir Brown just took a nosedive last year, which he kind of attributes to injuries he had, which, okay, that's fine. And he was hurt coming into training camp this year, and he had an ankle procedure to clean things up in between the OTA session and training camp and stuff. So you can give him some time, and I'm not sure exactly if he is a 100% yet. And so I do want to give him some leniency if that's the case, because I have no idea. They have been giving him, kind of random days off in between practices and whatnot. So maybe he's injured still. Maybe there's some lingering effects of the surgery he had. But Ji'Ayir Brown, when I say looked slow, looked lost, it looked like he shouldn't be starting today, that may be an understatement. He was really bad. He was, unfortunately, for how great Kittle was today, he was the one on the receiving end of Kittle's monstrous day. He was the guy in coverage getting beat over and over again by the tight end. And, I think Brown still has a higher ceiling. Like, he's a playmaker. He was known to do that at Penn State. They drafted him because of that. But for as bad as we've given that draft class, Cam Latu, Jake Moody, other guys in that group that you're just like, oh my God, like, what a terrible draft as a whole. Ji'Ayir Brown seemed like one of the, the positives of that draft, of like, well, we got Ji'Ayir Brown, the rest suck, but at least we have a starting safety out of it, and that doesn't seem like it's the case anymore. They like Pinnock. They love Mustafa. Marques Sigle's taking first-team reps. Like, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news for Ji'Ayir Brown, but it does seem like his stock has fallen so far to a point of probably not being cut, but not being a starter. And once Mustafa comes back and Grant comes back, there's no promise that, Ji'Ayir Brown's not the fourth or fifth safety on the roster. Now, I think they're more prone to have Richie Grant be the kind of special teams guy, but it's just not a great day from him. He hasn't had a great training camp. There's been some good days. There's been, some worse days than others, but it's been a rather underwhelming training camp for a guy that really needed it in a big way. Where terrible year, he got the brunt of a lot of the hate last year. The run defending was bad, coverage was bad. He looked slow. He looked like he was hurt. He looked like he just didn't know what was going on. Missing tackles left and right. But Ji'Ayir Brown, a really bad day from the safety. Just not good. Which sucks to see. Like, you want these young guys to play well and perform, but to get beat, not like on, a comebacker where you're playing safety so you're playing back. Like, no, you're getting beat when you are, like, when you have a step on George Kittle, when you, when you're playing safety against Kittle and he's beating you down, 40 yards downfield. Like, that's a problem where San Francisco's never told their safeties, we have to have you cover great. Hufanga was never great in coverage, and he was an all-pro player 3 years ago. As long as you make plays, you can offset that. Like, we can move you around. We can find a spot for you on defense like Hufanga a couple years ago, but Brown's not making plays, not good in coverage, and you really can't see the run defense in training camp because it's not the same thing as an actual game. So I'm hoping Ji'Ayir Brown plays in the next 2 preseason games, because I think without, going through every, the 90-man roster off the top of my head, he has a lot to lose and also a lot to gain. Like, yeah, Pinnock, looks great, but if Marques Sigle doesn't play good and, against the Raiders or against the Chargers, and Brown does, that may give him a leg up on Sigle. And if Mustafa misses more time, like, there's room for Brown to find a spot again still as a starter. But today was a really bad day from him, a really bad day from the third-year safety, which sucks, but that's just the way things go in the NFL. And you're hoping that he can pick himself back up and maybe find a silver lining this year and maybe end better than how things have been going this week at practice. Big Brick 84 asks here, any timetable for Evan Anderson and Jordan Elliott's return? I think Elliott is supposed to be back next week. If not, he'll be back leading into the regular season. I think that's what they said. And then I believe Evan Anderson should be back by next week. I think that's the case. But honestly, maybe outside of Anderson, I'm okay letting Alfred Collins and CJ West play the majority of preseason games. They need it. It was good to see their run defense against Denver. I know I gave Collins a hard time in his pass rush and the pad level and him being stonewalled at times, but much better in his run fits than I gave him credit for. But still, I do think both those guys are supposed to be back in the next 1 to 2 weeks. So some reinforcements are coming. I think I think Bernardo Green should be back next week. And then some more guys after that. So, again, thankfully, no one's injuries are serious. We're going to wait and see what the Ben Bartch diagnosis is after he left practice today with a right arm / right elbow injury. But we shall see what the team says on Thursday after their joint practice against the Las Vegas Raiders. No practice tomorrow. We will probably dissect the Athletics a quarterback breakdown and may give you a midweek stock up, stock down on the San Francisco 49ers roster leading into joint practices and week 2 of the NFL preseason tomorrow. But until then, don't forget to follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. Use that promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. I want to thank Kalia Chipto, 49er Minded, Big Brick 84, Lori Matthews, Strawberry, Kalia Chipto. I'm sure Bobo's in there somewhere. John Nevels, and many, many more of you. Niner Goat 16, Papa J. All of you guys are great. Thank you so much for watching and commenting and participating in the show. Hopefully you all guys can leave a like, share, and subscribe. And Strawberry Reacts asks here to end the show, will you be going to the practices or only the open ones? I will not be because I may have something on Saturday to announce for you guys. So stay tuned for that. But I'll still be here reporting live after every practice. So don't go anywhere. The reports are not leaving. We are still by far taking training camp and going forward with the reports. So we're not leaving. I'm not leaving. So stick around and stay tuned for more reports coming out of training camp and joint practices later this week. But until next time, my name is Sterling Bennett. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. See you tomorrow and stay faithful.